Hear the voices humming in your mind. He will never let you out of sight. Hear the devil's lullaby. Devil's lullaby. Falling for his lies, angel in disguise. Hear him calling out your name. Web of illusions, buried solutions. Fight the raging hurricane. Take a deep breath, hold on. Face the demons you fear till they're gone. Don't be fooled by their charm. It is time that you sound the alarm.
There we go. Alrighty. So, I have a couple things I want to try and get done. Yeah, I got most of the stuff here set up, and at least in a decent spot. Actually, let me fix this a little bit. Alright. So, most of the stuff here is in a good spot. So all this stuff is running, it's running off of this now, which actually what I need to do is, that needs to go to public. Perfect. So it's on this repository. I have a couple things I gotta take care of first. I need to remove this build step. So like this whole folder can just go away. Remove build step. Right. This is a new install, so not everything is perfectly set up yet. Now I should be able to commit it, and then for sync, it's going to want me to log into GitHub. Oh no, oh that's right, because I have my SSH keys. So now that action is gone. I started out the old ones, but it's not going to run anymore. And actually that's also, this is also probably irrelevant to have now, but whatever. So now everything is running off of these directly. You can see the plugin stuff, all that. So if I take a look at in my cluster, let's see. What's something I have a good like thing on? Did I do reloader? I think reloader's working. Alright, all the MFS stuff, env domain. I don't think I have anything interesting here. Not something that's like really interesting. I guess I can show like my like portal, what I can do with that. So like if I go to Flagsmith, I'm gonna need to log in here. Did I do it with Google or? Yeah. So let's go to, I think it's lab. Yeah. So in my lab, I got all this stuff. And one of the things that I did was in homepage, I have this extra section. And so I should actually be able to say, I can add like a description, let's say. Description, unify cloud management portal. Right, so I should be able to update this feature in production. What I don't have is the automatic, like, it doesn't automatically hard refresh, which is a potential problem, but I think I have a solution for it. So that should go to homepage, and if I hard refresh, you'll see the config map gets updated, it gets synced, and then reloader automatically reloads the replica set and the pod. Turns down the other one, and then refresh, and boom, that's there. So that whole process, the only like problem is that it doesn't automatically resync. I'm also wondering why these should have auto prune on, right? Yeah. I guess what's the history? Revision 4, yeah, revision history limit. Okay, so that's my 3 revisions. So what I need to do, Argo CD, webhooks. So what I want to do is webhook to hard refresh app. So there is a REST API for it. Let's see. That's oh, I see. That's what it wants. There we go. Okay, so application service. Refresh. So what I could do is set up a webhook integration from here to hit That might be interesting. Let's see if that works. So if I hard refresh, like that's a method. It's not a good method, but it could be an interesting method. Because I think right now, what I have is in the application controller, I've set the hard resync to 30, which I thought meant it would hard resync the application every 30 seconds. I don't think that's actually what's happening. So if I go Argo CD application controller, the time in periods for application. So I don't think that's what is meant by that. Because I'm pretty sure if I like even just go back and set this to like, all right, let's set it to like 1 second. This is time period in seconds for application hard resync. You say, hey, do that every second. So like if I do lower hard resync period, sync that. Should be in a minute. I'll see that come through. It's like this one, I think. So then under Argo, yeah, the application controller just booted up. Which means if I look at these things, so what I should be able to see is if I go to this, I go back to my homepage thing and change something. So like Flagsmith, we'll give it a description. Description of like change Homelab configurations and update that. What I should see is this Homelab should basically instantly update and try to sync. Okay, wait, that actually worked. So that is how it works. So then I just need to validate one more thing then. Alright, cool. So I just want to monitor, I want to change one more thing where I'm not even going to look at it. I just want to be able to go to Grafana, description, see metrics and alerts. When I update this feature a little bit later, in like 10-15 seconds, I should be able to refresh this page and see Grafana. So let's refresh. Hey, it actually works. Holy shit. Okay. Turn. I think I'm actually kind of loud. Okay. So that fully just works. If I change a record here, it will almost immediately pop up over here. Cool. So now I can get on to what I actually wanted to do, which is right now, in order to deploy all of my like media things, like all of these applications, I have to make a giant collection of Helm charts. Yeah, this one. Like all these different Helm charts. And I have to manually go in and configure each one of them. So what I want to do instead is group them all up into, I did this before actually, is put them all into one thing. Under a single chart. This one. And just pull everything under a single place. So it's got, yeah, all these different things. And then, so I actually want to redo some of this because not all of this is up to date. Yeah. So there's a certain amount of this that I do want to update, and it is incredibly hot. So that it actually does the things that I need to do. And then the other half of this project is something I created called configure, which essentially is something that can go in and configure these things in like a static way. So I can deploy all these applications with a static setup, and everything will just get connected at runtime. So my first job is getting most of this stuff, basically fixing up my pirate ship chart to be more updated. So that is what we're going to do. It's like Homelab Helm charts. All right. Code Homelab Helm charts. All right. So now what I want to do. Let's see. So I think most of these are fairly straightforward. There's a couple things that I don't want to continue holding here. Because a lot of these, I don't necessarily need anything very complex. Pirate ship I do, because it's got a whole bunch of other stuff to figure out, like this stuff. But like homepage, I don't mind using the normal stuff. This is fine. Yeah, doing all that's fine. So, all right, because that's not even like a, yeah, that's taking the normal Helm chart and doing that. So yeah, I don't need, just taking out stuff that I don't need. So like homepage I don't need, NZB get I don't need because it's gone out of support. Pi-hole I don't need because I use AdGuard. Transmission I don't need because I don't use that. Okay. So the rest of these, radar, sonar, prowler, overseer. So I need to go and get each of these set up. Right, because I set the configs here. So I need to get some of this stuff pulled out. So let's start with radar. So basically I want to be able to add some of this stuff and also add the functionality where I can do things like set the API. I can set the API key like from the templates. So I need to I want to change it to be the app template as a dependency. Because it makes my life a little bit easier. So we'll call this version 0. And then values. So it's going to be 5.4.6. And I just want to add some other functionality around it. It's like all of this stuff. I'm gonna just turn that off for a minute. Right, because I think some of the template, yeah, additional containers and doing all that stuff. So that's all just going to get configured in this now. So let's see if I actually, do I want to do that? Or do I want to keep, I think I actually want to keep this instead. Like keep the libraries instead. To his Helm charts. I do want to use the newer version of the library though, because it has some other stuff in it. Image, yeah. Because it has like containers and controllers and much more advanced things. So I will still have to redo most of this, but so then I want to make sure I'm using this correctly. It just includes the common library. And then in the values file, it's directly passing through. Okay. So and then I can keep some of this, but I don't have to do it in here actually. I can, although, yeah, that works, that works. So what we're gonna do is I need a couple of things from here. So yeah, first in the chart, I need to make sure I'm using the correct version of this, which is version common version 3.1. Perfect. So now I can go to this. So I can do controllers, main, enable true, replicas 1, containers, main, image, repository, radar. So by default, the tag is the app version, I think. If I look at so main, if we go down to containers, I don't think the image tag does have a default in this one. Okay, so that's fine. So we can do tag, can't I do like, I will figure that out in a minute. I think all this does is, yes, do this. So whatever, I'll deal with that later. So right now, tag 5.4.6, pull policy, if not present. I'm actually not going to set any of that. Because some of this stuff I don't want to set like by default. So yeah, all right. Actually, I don't think I want any of this. I think I want all of it to be configured just in here. Like basically take this exact same large ass file and just move it up a step. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. So, or no, I do want this. I'm gonna be very indecisive with this. So then what I need now is, because I don't necessarily need the service monitor, but I'll have this as a enabled thing. So then after controllers, there's, let's see, metrics. Right, because I literally just copied this from Kubernetes at home. Okay. And then in the common, this gets created. So I want metrics. So yeah, true by default. Exporter. Exporter. So it is going to be ghcr.io/OneDrop exporter with a version tag of v2.0.1 if not present. I think that's there's a couple of things. Port 9793. Okay, So that's basically all the config that I care about from the old version. So this will make sure that I get a radar with its metrics set, and then I can override things at any other level. So now in common, metrics.enabled, all these different things. These are going away. To name metrics, container port. Right, and then it'll create a service for that. Okay, so that's essentially radar in a nutshell. So then what I also need to get is under here. That what I want to do is have this kind of stuff on a per application basis. So yeah, secret, the config map. The config map, let's start with that. Config xml.yaml. I'll copy this over. So what I want is under here. Config enabled true. So then doing a couple of things, like basically doing all the things that you would set in here, just in there. So the things that I want to be able to support are API key, which by default is just going to be grab that. Is literally just going to be, how many characters is this? 32 characters? All right. 32 divided by 4 is 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 32 characters. Great. So that's your default API key. We'll have the auth method basic required log level info. We'll call this PG. Username. I will have to fix that to be a secret from or whatever, but at the moment I'm really not interested right now. That might be something I can do with like config.r, is I can exec into this and change this. And then I'm not going to give them the option to change the databases. It's just going to be a static thing. So there's that. So now I need to go in here. If.values.radar.config.enabled. And then end. Okay, so then we have .values.radar.config.api key. .values.radar.config.auth.method. .require values radar config pg. And this whole thing is actually another if statement. If.values.radar.config.pg.enabled. And all right, I have to have host. Is I'll just call it like Postgres.radar.svc.cluster.local as a default host. .radar config.pg.hosts. Actually, I can do default. Is that's the function, right? It's like Helm default. Right, I can pipe it to default. Default is Postgres dot like Helm strings. Printf it's postgres.percentage.svc.cluster.local, where the next one is namespace. So that'll automatically configure that for you. Right. So I think that takes care of almost everything. Yeah, that's gonna be not fun. I guess I can just do it at the high level, it's fine. So now, I should need to dev. Make a quick kind cluster to test the stuff on. All right. So I go to CD charts radar. Helm build dependencies. Okay. So that gives me the chart. So I should be able to. Actually, I should disable this for now. And I should be able to say, I can do true and then helm upgrade dash dash install radar dev dot Isn't that how it... Hold on. Helm pass value command line. Set. Values metrics exporter. Oh, ENV port, I say. And just executing values persistence config enabled false. All right. Where's my persistence? I see. Persistence config enabled false. Oh, I see. So if the config is enabled, it needs to be able to mount the config regardless. Okay. So I need to be able to put this same mount on it. Okay. Huh. It is a lot of YAML, yeah. That's almost the entirety of what Kubernetes entails, and it's a lot to decipher. But yeah, to try and give like the quick version, I want to have an application that I deploy and be able to toggle whether or not it has this sidecar container just with like a quick turn on and off bit. So that's where it gets complex. So I think Does this, I think the library chart that I use, does it still have? No, it doesn't have additional containers anymore. All right, so that won't work at all. Is it worth it? I like how modify values before full template. Like, is there something where I can do like Helm dependent values? Right. I see. So that's another option. So I think what I actually want to do is just make the pirate ship one. Like, I kind of want to just start from scratch on this because it's been way too long since I've actually used this thing. And a lot of things have changed since then. So, it'll start off kind of similar to how this one starts off. Like, I just want to say, like, this is everything. You just control it all from this Helm chart. Type application version 0.0.1. Right, so then I have to do all this bit. And then it's gonna be a lot of the same stuff. So what do I want to do now? Because I want to have the same kind of controls for like radar, sonar, all this other stuff. Really, from Odin to C++. Odin wasn't working out for you? Let's see. Let's see. Let's see, image. I'll label the ENV the same. Ah, yeah, that's fair. It's always good to have those like C++, like C++, Python, like those languages just at your disposal because they are just so ubiquitous. I've played with Odin a little bit and I've seen people like really like it. But yeah, it's not really in a position where you can really get a career doing that at the moment. Yeah, I can't figure that either, so I guess ingress will just leave as that. Yeah. You kind of have to create a career for Odin at the moment. True ports. There's a thing in... Where is it? Thought there was like a ports thing here. Let's see. Really? Oh, that's awesome, man. I more props to you for being in the game industry. That is not a easy industry to really like break into and get going in. So good for you. Let's see. Whatever, I'll leave that alone. Are you at a major studio or at a smaller one, indie? What are you doing in the game industry? Ah, nice. Cool. Interesting. I guess how interesting? Just not what you expected, or got weird operating or something? Ooh. All right, yeah, that's yeah, that's pretty early on. Wow. Okay, yeah. So not a very mature platform then. Interesting. Interesting. So they're making a whole language for that. Wow. Cool. That sounds like a really cool project. The allocations are okay. That's kind of interesting. Hmm. I guess I'm trying to see like where the okay. I can kind of see that being helpful when you have to like sync a bunch of things so you can like do an action early, and then if it gets unverified, whatever, you just can roll it back as like a language feature. Hmm. So what I'm trying to do, I guess I could just be opinionated and just so there's two ways for this particular application that I can store the config. If they have if it connects to a database externally, then I only have to connect one config file, and that's fine. If it connects locally, the database is stored in that same folder, so I have to connect everything. So I can be opinionated and just say this is how it is, and then if you really want to, you can override it, or I can try to be clever. For the sake of actually getting something done today, I think I'm just gonna be opinionated. All right. Let's see. This is actually KDS mount writable config map. Yeah, I didn't think so. All right. So that does that. So then that's pretty much all the things that I need to get done for this. So this is the opinionated version of it. And then under templates, config XMLs. So under persistence config, so that's what I need to do. I need to say if values dot radar dot systems dot config dot type if that is equal to config map, then I need to make all this other stuff. So now that my old stuff is going to be useful here, because I can pull this all out, and then out of the values I can pull this config bit. So that'll then template out all the things. And then same thing for the database secrets. I need to grab this and pull it to the end here. And then modify where it pulls that data from. It's dot values dot radar dot config dot pg dot username. Except this is username, that's password. Actually want that, so I don't have to base for 64 and code it myself. Kind secret, application spilio, cluster name. I'm just gonna have to be opinionated on this. So let's actually do this. So dot config dot pg dot enabled. It'll create this, and then it'll do all the other things. All right. So I think I can figure this out. So team, I think all this can stay the same. I think that's the name of the... I don't have that installed. Hold on. This there, yes. Thank you. Is that what I call the namespace? It is not. So I need to do a couple things. This namespace needs to not be there. I'm not sure where that name came from though. Standby Postgres pirate ship. That must come from the name of it. Values global. Yep, it was the user. Okay. So that's the username. So now I have pirate ship there. So that'll all be static. And I can basically replicate all of this for sonar. It's sonar main and sonar log. And I just need to double check that that is correct. I don't think it's any different. Yeah, I think that's all exactly the same. Which would make sense. That looks about right. We'll find out later. So that's now there for sonar, and I can do the same for secrets. Oh, actually, this needs to be... Yeah, that needs to be one set of credentials. All right. Because that needs to be one... I want it to be one user for the whole, like, platform. So I'll go up here and make global. And move a lot of this. Yeah, actually, all of this should just be global config. Values.global. Turns to .values.global. All right, so then it will create all of these things. So yeah, one for radar, one for sonar. I need to copy this to sonar, to sonar. .04. And the port is 8989 this time. And that will bind sonar config XML to it. And then last thing for So now I need the Postgres stuff. Which comes from here. So now I want to be able to pass some of this through. So if.values.global.config.pg.enabled and pg.username, which will create all of the DB names with the right stuff. Team name. That needs to be .values.global config pg size. And then replicas. And then I will also create the secret for the Postgres database, so it doesn't have to do any of that. And that way it's statically configured. So at this point, I think I have enough where I can at least test it. So the one thing it does depend on is the Postgres operator. I'm pretty sure I literally just installed it. I don't think I did much. Yeah, I just did helm install it. So there we go. All right, then as soon as that is running, we are good to go. Perfect. So now, should actually be able to go in here. Go to pirate ship. And do right. Oh, right. Does that have to be under... I think that has to be under containers. Yeah. Containers, main, image. All right. There we go. So let's see. So that's sonar, that's also sonar? Oh, I know what happened. It created just one deployment instead of many. Okay. Okay. So I've got to override a couple of these things. There it goes. One radar, one sonar. Oh, right, the host. Right. I forgot about that. So in these, I think I forgot to... Gotta make that actually look right. So I'm pretty sure what they're seeing, or what it's seeing is... Yeah, postgres.default.svc. Okay, so I need to change that to... It's going to create it one called Pirate Ship PostgreSQL. That's what the default needs to be. No password has been provided, but the backend requires one. Did I not configure the default password correctly? It's right there. Oh, yeah. So I also have to make sure, I actually want to change this to Pirate Ship, which is the name of the user, right? And then Pirate Ship password. What do you mean authentication failed? Username, not use. I've got to remember to actually remember things. That make my life so much easier. And there we go. Perfect. So now all the Postgres stuff is done. Yeah, and it says it can't run back to this stuff, but that's fine because it doesn't actually have to. What that means I can do is pull up this, and we can see everything is up and running. And if we look inside one of these and we look at /config, literally the only thing that we care about is that config.xml. All the logs are getting streamed outside, and then that's all. That actually might be important to keep, but it doesn't affect the performance of it, so I'm not entirely concerned. Seems to work just fine without it, so I'm not really worried. So that means that now I have these two that are perfectly configurable through all this. Great. So the next bit is getting Prowler in here. So let's look at Prowler. Global name override Prowler. /Prowler. Yeah, 1.15. Hold policy if not present. Service main, controller main. Yeah, all this stuff. Then we go to this, and I want because the Prowler config map I know is a little bit different, right? Or was it also exactly the same? I think it's exactly the same. Oh, I have to change this to bind to port 8989 and yeah, 9898 for SSL. So that's really the only difference then. Just yoink that. Change that. Change the instance name and that. And now all that's good. And Postgres doesn't need to get changed. Secret doesn't need to get changed. All of that's based on the global values. So now I know what the API key is when it boots. I know what everything is when it boots. So I also need to make sure that these have the right. That needs to be Prowler config XML. And then from there, I should be able to just. Alright. Prowler service. I mean, I did that. Oh, I misspelled it. Alright. And there's my Prowler. With everything set up. And again. I should be able to go to 9666 and boom. Everything's set up. Alright, so I have one or two more applications to get on like just the deploy them set. And then I can get to something else. So that's like the basic stuff. Is just get them up and get them connected to Postgres. And then everything else is configurable through here. So like for the one thing I do want to do is figure out how to get port numbers on them because it's very annoying. Common templates, render. Classes. I feel like there's one for a pod spec or a container spec. Template. Lib pod. Pod field containers. Somewhere in there should be a. Come on. So if I just do KS pod container port. I wonder if I can literally just do container port 7878. Does that just work? It sure does. Alright, and the last for Prowler, it needs to be 9696. Cool. I think I can also do, if I do a pod disruption budget, I think is what it's called. Pod disruption budget. I see. Well, maybe later. That takes care of that. And then, assuming that they are all in the database, you can do this really fun thing. Where I can go, actually, to go download tables plus Arch. All right. All right. Local Postgres. All right, so like pirate ship password. Go to the service. All right, great. So now I can take a look at everything. Because the cool part about this is I can see everything here, as well as all of their configurations. So I can go in and say, I want to change public one yet. So I want to add a download client. I can go in, I can just add it into the database as a connection. I don't have to do anything else. So indexers, applications. I think this is what? This is Prowler main. So yeah, applications, different configs. You know, I can just change all this stuff. Same with like if I go to radar main, I can just add things because everything's here. Root folders, everything. It's all there. So I can write software, or I can write a tool that will, on boot up as like a post-sync job for Helm, boot up, connect to the database, and make all these connections between everything. So I do need to get some information about how to actually do that. And I have a project that I was working on called Configure that was doing that. But I actually think I need to do like a complete rewrite of it. So that it is... Because what Configure did was it went through the APIs. Which works. It does work. I guess I do want to keep that because not everyone's going to be running this in Kubernetes on Postgres, where that makes sense. So yeah, so I can have radar with all the addresses that it needs to be plugged into. Maybe I'll do a DB version of it later, but I think right now this works. Because that was part of the original pirate ship. Was, yeah, the config config, which is all this. Which made sure everything got mounted correctly. So like if I look at the, yeah, all this stuff, that works. So, I guess I do want to use, because this like worked pretty well. I guess I'll keep iterating on this. I might do a full like operator version of this where it goes and connects directly to the database and makes changes there. But for now, I think that the API is going to be just fine. So let's see what we got. So I need to do the same config .yaml. And I'll kind of bring these into the same thing. So it's going to try and do all this automatic configuration for you at boot or at Helm, at the next Helm thing. Because before I had this like auto config, but I think for this one I'm just going to assume, I guess I can keep it true and let you turn it off. So auto is true. It's like, and this is automatically apply and automatically configure and connect applications. So now I can do if.values.global.config.auto, and then this kind of same thing. So API v1 config map metadata config config. Data config.yaml. And this is where it gets tricky. Because technically I do want to be able to enable and disable all of these. I guess I can just basically do that based on the controller, right? Like if the controller is enabled, then it's enabled. So if dot values dot radar dot controller dot main dot enabled, then do all this stuff. Actually, I should be doing Helm Temple. I see. That makes sense. So if it allows Helm templating, that's how you do that. Okay. All right, so that's not exactly what I want to do. And then pass the result to other template functions. So if I should be able to just do config R, and then I'll do config R config.yaml and move this bit just completely over here. Required config R config. Helm include external file. Helm encode YAML file as config map. Okay, that's what I want. Dot files dot get right. So dot files dot get config R config.yaml. So let's try that real quick. Radar. Controllers. Right, services. But that's, I don't want that to template out as a YAML file. I just want that to be embedded somewhere. Helm Files API? So I guess I need to do template hard.
Don't stop, make it pop, DJ blow my speakers up tonight. I'ma fight till we see the sunlight. Tick tock on the clock, but the party don't stop. No, oh, 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 oh.
I see.
Make it pop, DJ blow my speakers up tonight. I'ma fight till we see the sunlight. Tick tock on the clock.
Define config dot configure so let's grab this again. I can say go port values dot radar dot service dot main dot ports dot http dot port. I think that's what it is. Radar service main ports http port. Yep. And now you get to the config. Root folder name path / media. Don't worry about download client yet. I'll get that done in a minute. Is again do the same thing for this. Change that out for sonar. And that'll make sure that they both have that at /media. Even if that folder may or may not exist, but we'll see. I actually can make sure it exists. Persistence. Media. It's got documentation for this. Come on. There we go. We'll do an empty dir for right now. Empty dir. By default, the persistence heavily mounted at /media, which is fine. But by default, I want it to be an empty dir, but it will exist. And same with downloads. But it'll just be an empty dir for right now. So sonar gets mounted with the same stuff. So that's all good. Now back in my config. So I know for a fact this /media will exist. So let's just see if I can get that much to work. Back and grab my old thing and config. So now I have a config XML, which actually let's double check that that actually works. No, it does not. So somewhere around here, yeah, it's still not showing. So how does one? Oh, right, because it's not files.get, it's now include config.config. Helm. Okay. Okay, so now where is the... Okay, there it is. So that is getting done correctly. It just needs to be indented. And then type that into indent 4. So yeah, so you have services all the way down. Perfect. Okay. So now I can do the job as well. API version batch /v1. Metadata, generate name. Yeah, all the post sync stuff. Don't need that. Back off limit 15. All right. Let's see what happens. Resource name may not be empty. What does that mean? What does that mean? It's not doing anything. Oh shit, yeah, man. Have a good night. Thanks for joining the stream. You too, man. That's what this is. Debug, not verbose. Oh, I see. It thinks this must be new. I see. Oh wait, but I never gave it a name. That must be what it's talking about. Uninstall pirate ship. Okay. So that worked. But now it's going to take a minute for everything to come back up. All right. That's running. All these things need to get restarted. So where's my job? Post upgrade hook, chart hooks, yeah. Yeah, it should be a job. Okay, let's try post install home.sh/. Okay. No job was created. Why is the job not getting created? Values, global, config, auto. What's happening? Post install. There it goes. Oh, that's right. It can't get the initialized JS anymore. Why did it fail? Where is it? Password authentication failed. Why? Password, username. What happens if I do this and let everything kind of fall away? So all that can go down. All right. Now, let's try this from the beginning. Well, now I'm confused because this was working a minute ago. And I didn't touch any of the Postgres stuff. Let's see. Oh, I think I had this problem before. Yeah, I think I did have this problem before. I think I need to do this. I it needs to be just one. Yep. For whatever reason on Kind with multiple replicas, it just does not work. So yeah, that's everyone spun up. And it's going to yell at me that I can't connect to the config XML. Don't really care. Oh! Neat. Well, what'd I forget? Oh, is it download clients? I bet you it's download clients. Service.go line 56. I will bet anything that that is where it initializes download clients. Internal config service line 50. Oh, line 56. Strings.split string body equal. Oh, it's where it tries to get the initialized data. Yeah, because initialized JS doesn't work anymore. Yeah, so that has to get rewritten. There used to be a... Yeah, an initialized JS that used to be available, but is no longer available. Okay, so I gotta work on configure. All right. Do I even have Go installed on this machine yet? Oh, I do. What version of Go do I have? 1.22. Perfect. So in the service initializer, I have things I need to get going. Like this has to change. Let's see, API key, yeah. Actually, do I have a way of... Do I already have a way of setting the API key and I just don't use it? Kind of. Yeah, okay. So that does work. I do have a way of doing it. So that's cool. I accidentally thought ahead. One sec. I'll deal with that later. Okay. So I should have a way then, with all this, if I set the key manually, so in here I should have something that says yeah, this initial ID's idea and the body and all that. Oh, right, the API route is the other part of that. So I forget where it gets this stuff. So yeah, there's a parse config. So take each service and see at first unmarshal the config data. Take each of the services and iterate over them and see if they initialize. Right, service.api key. So there's new service, which I don't apparently use. And then error is this. But then where in this do I set an API key? That's what I'm trying to figure out. References, where is it set? I know this thing used to get API keys. Because that's literally what it used to do. Because I wasn't configuring them manually here. So but where does the API key come from? Like, I don't understand how you can just read all this in and not pull. That can't be right. So how the hell did I do that? Because I was... Because I never pulled the API keys from here, did I? No. And the job just ran this. And I know that this worked. So... So how did this work? You can see this one's just like, yeah, go get the find referenced app and set fields in the config.service if app.name does not equal service.name, continue, otherwise do all this shit. Right, so add prowler to their config, right? That's right. So if you have something that's configured with applications, take each of those applications and take their right. So yeah, take each application that you want Prowler to work with and add the Prowler URL as this. And then, yeah, and then search for the service that you're referencing and fill that out. But that doesn't answer my question of where it got the API key from in the first place. Like, past me is not really helping me here. If I... No, it still doesn't work because the local host doesn't work. And they must have gotten rid of that. So... I have an API key. So that is an option. I just need to figure out where this stuff came from. Like, this is it. So... Ow. This cannot possibly have worked. I think I'm going to have to redo this anyway, because the whole core of how I got the information in is now completely gone. Like, I can't use the initialize.js anymore, which was how I was able to do a lot of this stuff in the first place. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to start over. I still have no idea how the hell this worked in the first place, because I never... Like, I just don't have any of the API keys. Oh, I unmarshaled it into itself. Oh, that makes sense. Okay. I was losing my mind. I was like, how the hell did the API key get there? That's how the API key got there. Okay. I'm not completely delusional. Got it. It's not magic. However... still have that problem. So let's look at something here. Right, okay. Yeah, a bunch of DLLs. There has to be HTML in here somewhere. Mm-hmm. Ah, that's so annoying. Nothing. That is super annoying. Initialize.js. Like, look, it was right there. It could have been. Could have been lovely. That is so annoying. What options do I have then? And the API key is, I guess I just have to get the API key and then implement each thing. Because I actually was pretty clever because they all use the same overall API structure. So like this REST is able to just be be super configurable and super module, but I guess I can't really use that. I guess I just have to hard code it, right? Like I just have to grab like the right path for the right thing. Like, I can still do it, but it's gonna be like a giant rewrite of most of this shit. I guess not really. Like this init service just needs to get changed to a lookup, and then it's fine. Yeah, that won't be too bad. But that sounds to me like a later problem, because I am hungry, and my head already hurts from doing this much. So thank you everyone for watching.